Hey guys, just checking I'm live on Facebook as well. Come on, Facebook. Come on. Sorry guys, I'm going to have to copy and paste the time and go type to description and go back. Sake. About this, anyone on YouTube? It's some technical issues. Just waiting for YouTube. Facebook, sorry. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. Sorry, I was having some technical issues there with Facebook. But yeah, finally back here with part 2. Way behind schedule, but there's a saying, better late than never. And yeah, so this is part 2 of my Christmas shopping list for AC Milan. Technically, it's not Monday anymore, but so I plan to do this on a Monday. Yeah, behind schedule. Technically, it's a new day, but I thought I'd try and at least get round to part 2, hopefully at least part 3, in fact. So yeah, here are some of my, or the continuation even of some of my dreams for AC Milan. I'd love for investors to start investing in the club ASAP and looking at ways to attract investment and sponsorship and that kind of thing. If you know any facts, figures, or general info or whatever on AC Milan, please post them on it or them in the description, either on Facebook, Andrew, or YouTube. So yeah, here goes. So I don't know where the day went today, but between going to a coffee morning, or as I said before, like for me it's a tea morning because I don't drink coffee, and having a granddad nap and then trying to avoid distractions and then watching a bit too much YouTube and things like that, the day has eluded me. So yeah, anyway, so these are pointers number 11 to 20 as usual. I hope people will support my channel and my content for Christmas. That'd be really cool. But on that note, yeah, so these are points number 11 to 20. Sorry, I promise I don't drink. I just my brain's a bit ditzy. I don't need to drink because I've had enough or whatever. But anyway, so number 11, I would love to see what AC Milan could do to change and improve themselves, which I talked about in point number 2, like learning from other clubs. I think the main one that AC Milan could learn from, the main benchmark, I guess, if that's the best word to use, I'm not sure, but is Real Madrid, because they're the only team that's actually won more Champions Leagues than AC Milan. But yeah, if AC Milan had the funding, I dream for the club to have. Then I guess we could do that sort of thing. I'd love for AC Milan to work with FIFA and UEFA to be able to look at legal ways to go through FFP rules. Maybe even like sort of say, could we change the rules so that it means like if you give to charity, you are able to attract more investment from a biased point of view, not a biased point of view. I would love for that to be for Italian teams and Celtic. I'd love for Italy to be able to offer access to their markets and tax exemptions for investing in football. But again, as long as they do it within the rules. I think there are quite a few rules I'm not too privy to in terms of FIFA and UEFA's rules and laws and that kind of thing. but yeah, I'd love to see what they could do to improve. And I suppose Real Madrid, the reason why I mention that is because Real Madrid have a lot of funds. I think officially they're supposed to be owned by the fans, but some people say they're owned by like the royal family in Spain, and the politicians apparently even either the royal family and or politicians, and they get loads of money. The political class and ruling class, which is probably a bit unfair. Like if Atletico Madrid and Barcelona and their other rival fans, I suppose most of Spain probably don't get involved with them because they win so much. But as my Spanish friend, one of my friends from Spain, originally from Spain, lives here in the UK, grew up here, but he's originally Spanish. He was saying like Barcelona and Real Madrid apparently keep all the money. But I suppose that's what most top teams do in their respective countries. Anyway, I'm going a bit off track, but I mean, teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid and teams like that, maybe how they play. I'd love to see Italian teams like that. I mean, AC Milan have a distinction of unique distinction, if you like, of, in terms of Italian teams, as they used to play attacking football. Although they had a good defence, maybe having good players in all possible positions, I think would really help as well. Funny enough, they've had some great defensive players, but they also played an attacking style of football. But maybe they could try and see could they replicate some things that Spanish football does, but also tighten up the defence, which would make them even stronger than like Spanish teams, maybe potentially, which have done really well. And also, I know I mentioned it's a dilemma because I only love Italian football because I think I look Mediterranean, but it happened to be Italy first, but I suppose it could have been Spain, I guess. But because they're a Mediterranean team, it's a bit of a dilemma. But having strength in depth, I guess, as well, even squad players. But yeah, I mean, one weakness Spanish teams are said to have is like defensive. So maybe that's something they could do to be even stronger by having a good spine, a good defence as well as good attacking players, and also just playing more attacking and like closing teams down. But yeah, seeing what they could do to improve, what could they change, how could they market themselves better. I talk about like dyslexic creativity and even like people with mental health problems, how we have strengths like a method to the madness, as I say, and things like that. And yeah, learning from other teams and seeing what they could do to improve. So maybe playing an attacking format to try and attack teams and close them down and that sort of thing. But also maybe like try and play a high pressing game like Liverpool, but also keep the ball as well. So when they can like keep the ball, when the opposition's got the ball, close them down and that kind of thing. But yeah, and also having a good defence and good goalkeeper and things like that, or even good goalkeepers and good defenders in the plural, so they can have subs as well. Anyway, moving on, number 12. Also looking at what has and hasn't worked for other teams and like that, and including themselves, like how they fell from grace and how they can get back to the top, and what they do well and how they can continue to do that, but also strengthen their weaknesses. I think that would be pretty cool. And I talked in part one about like AC Milan working with people with like mental health problems and working with charities that help with people with mental health problems and including people with mental health problems as well as dyslexics, dyscalculics, dysgraphics, and maybe even dyspraxics and others, and maybe even like people with disabilities generally, sharing ideas, which I talk about with the Tampa more generally, and maybe even Celtic as well. Yeah, seeing what they could do to support different charities and like inspire and motivate and encourage people, and work with schools and talk about anti-bullying campaigns and things like that. Number 13, I would say, is a guilty pleasure and a selfish sort of thing where I want Italian teams to do well. Obviously, Italian teams, including AC Milan. AC Milan, I suppose, to me, they have the best kits in football. I don't know why that black and red seems to just go. I don't know if it's because they've had so many great iconic players in that kit, or for whatever reason, I just feel it's the best kit. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but for some reason or the other, I always find AC Milan to have the best kit and Italian team generally, and that kind of thing. But their nickname is the Devils, and I said it as I said in part one. I think it's El Diablo, which translates from Latin to English as the Devils, just like Man United and whatnot. And I'd love to have like cups, tourneys, as I call them, tournaments, leagues, and things like that, which bring together teams that nickname the Devils, like even maybe Belgian teams, Man United and AC Milan to practice against each other in that tournament, which I dream would help AC Milan to have more practice and be part of this tournament, which would help them to brand themselves. I probably don't get too much about those other teams, but I think it'd be interesting to be called the Devil's Cup. It's just a silly idea I've got, like I have so many others. But as I said in part one, in point number one, it was founded by an English guy. I think his name was Herbert Kilpin. Sorry, don't know where Chapman came in, but Herbert Kilpin, and he said we want to play like a team of devils that put fear into the opposition. I don't know if Man United were made in with the same sort of thing in mind, same sort of goal, but I'm sure there's no historical connection. But they both sort of call themselves the Devils, and I guess many sports teams do. So like obviously Man United are known as the Red Devils. I suppose AC Milan can be called the Black and Red Devils. But yeah, the idea is to put fear into the opposition. So I'd love to see AC Milan have loads of funding, and I forgot to say, I think it was point number 12 I was going to say, or maybe even point number 11. I think it was point number 11 on second thoughts. But anyway, that I'd love to see AC Milan have. I'd love for Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, and companies that begin with A to invest in them, as I said before. But I would love to see them be able to invest, like I was going to say about working with FIFA and UEFA. Like if Apple, Amazon, and Alibaba could think it's worth taking the risk, they could spend like 1% of their revenue on, or at least their profits, or even up to 10% if I'm really dreaming. But that's probably asking a bit too much. But ideally, if I'm really dreaming, I would ask for like even 10%, like so they would spend that much. But also, I thought they could sponsor, they could have their products in the AC Milan stores, and they could sponsor like stands and pitches and like put their brands on the chair, like on the chairs and across the stadium and that kind of thing. I wonder if they could even use like they could have writing on the grass, and so they promote products and things like that, promote businesses, which could be more enable more sponsorship and that kind of thing. Number 14, I normally talk about like solving problems, how they can work with FIFA and UEFA to improve the image of the beautiful game and that kind of thing, and solve problems that face the world like global warming, climate change, and that kind of thing. But another thing I was thinking of is like, I think I briefly mentioned it again in part one, but I'd love for like Marks and Spencer's, McDonald's, and even companies generally, as many of them as possible, to have their own football teams in Italy, including in Milan, and McDonald's to sponsor like football in Milan and Monza and that kind of thing, or even across Italy. But in this case, obviously, I'm focusing on Milan. And yeah, sponsor like football kits, football pitches, football leagues, tourneys, cups, and things like that. Their own miniature cups and things like that, and have teams that play against AC Milan youth teams, so they sort of practice, but giving more opportunities for Italians, in this case in Milan, especially to play football, which hopefully will benefit AC Milan and the national team and Italian football more generally as well. Yeah, I'd love for all possible companies as well as to invest in Italian teams that be with the same letter or letters, which I often say, also to have their own teams like Ferrari, Lamborghini, BMW, Mercedes, Microsoft, IBM, and so many different companies to sponsor their own teams, whether it's their workers or even just generally have like football teams that they set up and say we're going to fund these football teams and take a risk because they have the pockets, if you like, or the bank accounts to invest in that kind of thing, and sponsor those sorts of things and pitches and things like that. So yeah, hopefully that would mean there'd be more opportunities for Italians to play football, and more teams, and therefore more opportunities, and even like coaching opportunities and sponsoring bibs and pitches and things like that, and that kind of thing. And moving on, number 15, I'd even love to, again, I know I mentioned this recently, but just to reiterate a point, I suppose that's a big word for me, but to have, I lost my train of thought, sorry, and I've lost my point, I was going to say. That's annoying. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Yeah, so I was saying about having different football teams being sponsored. But yeah, I was going to say sorry. To pay for my favourite figure like 10% of Italians to play football, and if they get an injury, they would have like insurance to cover like their career or loss of career by focusing on football. So I mean, more people will be able to take a risk to play football. I suppose it'd be like a business, like funding businesses, I guess, you know, thing, or developing nations or whatever. Or people from disadvantaged backgrounds or whatnot. If companies thought that it was worth them doing it, of course, there's like all these ideas. But moving on, number 16. So it'd be interesting to see what they could do if they had that much investment. But yeah, as I say, if I'm really dreaming, I would love to see AC Milan have like funding from Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, and again, I'd love for them to invest like 10% of their revenue or at least profits into AC Milan. I guess revenue would be the bigger number, but yeah, if they did that, I guess I'm thinking like, I don't know how much they make a year, but it would probably be into tens or even hundreds of billions. So I suppose that'd be a good amount of money for AC Milan to have. And even if, like, I'm thinking like, for some reason, I think of the number 16 as like what ifs. So I think, what if they could, what if I could set up like the M.K.S, Dyslexic Millionaires Network, and that kind of thing, and Billionaires Network, and in the future even Trillionaires Network, and invest therefore in Italian teams like AC Milan, and also Celtic and that kind of thing, as I often say. Yes, it'd be interesting to see what they could do. And also, I think of like committees and think tanks that sit down and talk about what are the best ways to benefit AC Milan. Also, there's another point I was going to mention, but I'll probably mention it in point number 21. Number 17, I want to be confident enough to sing this song by, or at least some of this song by Ozzy, the late Ozzy Osbourne, just like he goes, I'm a dreamer, dream my life away. But I don't know the words. I always forget words, the lyrics to the words, or put it in the right order. I think that, I'm not sure if that's my dyslexia or auditory processing or whatever, but yeah, sorry, that's the one thing I don't know why, but I often think I end up being cringe or whatever, but well, too late for that probably, or too late to avoid that rather. But yeah, I'd love to see AC Milan get back to the top if I use my imagination, and as I say, if I'm really dreaming, I would love for like Apple, which I know is worth like 4 or 5, about almost 4 trillion or something, like the wealth of entire nations, and also Amazon. I think they're in a race to get to $4 trillion or something like that in market capitalization or even net worth or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I guess the revenue would probably be therefore in, as I say, into hundreds of billions. So if they make 100 billion each, Amazon and Apple and Alibaba is not far behind. And I guess even Aramco, that's another one, which again, I said in part one, I'd love for them to either invest in AC Milan or AS Roma, because like use of alliterations. But yeah, if Apple invested like 10% of their revenues, it would be about maybe about 10 billion or something like a year. That would be pretty cool. I'm sure AC Milan could buy some great players for that, and invest in their academies and sports clubs around the world, and do those for charity and things like that. But again, I wouldn't want them to break any laws, like any sort of I'm going to say copyright crimes or something. I wouldn't want them to break any FFP rules or any laws at all, generally, that kind of thing. Number 18, again, I'd love for them to do that, football for good, working with FIFA and UEFA to talk about how football can build a bridge for people and tackle many of society's ills and make the world a better place. Number 19, that could include having academies and sports clubs, teaching and training and educational centres and things like that across Africa and Asia through their foundation, which I hope to talk more about in parts 3 and 4, all being well, or at least in part 3, if not part 4 as well. And supporting like software developers across Africa and things like that, Aboriginals as well, and also African game makers by making tech games and things like that. And number 20, supporting STEM education across developing nations more generally, including like Latin America, but especially in Africa. And I hope I didn't forget anything. I'm out, and peace and love.